seizure, I would get... Did you switch to spectator, PZ? Ladies and gentlemen, we are here for the third to last race of this X3 season. The championship fight continues to be hot and seemingly random as we close down to these new tracks on the circuit. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast in St. Louis 13. I'm being joined once again by PZ French Fry Man. It's Imola this time, PZ. It's a circuit that Formula One kind of aborted and abandoned throughout most of the 2000s and all the 2010s. Shows back up in 2020. Now it's become part of the F1 calendar again. But while the circuit's back, there's been so much changes in Formula One from the late 90s compared to now. What are some of the main differences that we can be looking for in today's race?
Probably the fact that the cars are getting wider and wider every year for some reason. But the thing is, we've been away from this track for so long that people were having a difficult time to kind of process what would happen the previous years at Imola. And I believe these cars, like the actual generation of cars, as in the 2021 ones, they're doing, I'd say a better job than the previous generation with the slick tires and basically the highest setup of downforce Formula One ever achieved. So it's a track we've abandoned for, that's it, almost 2 decades, maybe a decade and a half, and now we're just coming back to it because of the something I'm not gonna quote because you know what it is.
The cheese touch.
The cheese touch. I'd rather call it the challenge sneeze, but whatever gets you going. But the fact that it's also a track that has a lot of history to do with Formula One. I wouldn't say mostly bad because I mean we tend to remember only the worst thing that happened here. Not gonna go that much in detail on that. But as for me, this track is pretty reminiscent of what you can find as newer tracks today. A lot of corners. Most of the new tracks have around 20 turns on average. Imola has 18 with a couple of straightaways, a couple of hard-braking zones, a couple of chicanes. It has everything, and I believe Formula One coming back to this track in 2020 and 2021 was one of the greatest moves they could have done.
While you're in the middle of talking, Collie Boy, who was the first driver to get onto the circuit, had a bit of a spin coming through that uphill hairpin at the start of Sector 2. He's getting back underway now. You're right, this circuit. I didn't get to watch the dev race, sadly, but yesterday in the realistic race, we only got about 20 laps between qualifying and the race itself that were under dry conditions. So what we saw yesterday was a primarily wet race, but even under the dry, a big thing, these cars are a lot wider and a lot longer nose to tail than they were back in the 80s, 90s, and the very start of the 2000s. Because of that, you end up with a scenario that's a lot harder to navigate this car around the circuit. Yeah, there's lots of runoff room. The track technically is wide enough, but for the proper racing line, you're threading it through the needle a lot of the time. And I think a big element that you're going to see because of that is actual overtaking here is almost impossible. Unless you have a good DRS run down the front stretch, every other overtake by default comes off of the person ahead making a mistake.
I'm kind of expecting an eventful race, as we had the prior two, where I've been co-broadcasting with you. So I'm not really. How should I put it? I'm not really concerned about the fact that we won't see many overtakes or overtakes always in the same spot. So it could be working out in a way.
I'm not of the mindset that lots of overtakes automatically make a good race. You can have a good race with a very small number of overtakes. You can have a bad race that just have endless overtakes, and track position doesn't mean crap. In my opinion, at least. I'm just saying that if you want to try and make an on-track overtake, it's going to have to come on the circuit. It's going to basically come on the run down to turn 1. But, and Mantic Meerkat goes across the line, and the Haas, the first driver set a lap, 1:17.386. I imagine we'll see that time drop a little bit more as we go forward. Big thing, at least in my opinion, is that if the strategy is going to be a big call within X3, we see more often than not, betting on when the yellow flags fall in the race has the biggest upset in the event. In the realistic race yesterday, yes, it was raining throughout the entire day, so there wasn't any DRS to begin with. But if you're on the wrong hoof, if you're on the wrong hoof, I said it again! If you're on the wrong boot, when it comes to strategy calls, and the last yellow flag, you go green after that, and you're buried in the middle of the field, you may not have a chance to improve.
And Gusty takes it a tenth faster, 17.2. As we also add XRL X3 bailout on his lap, probably underfueling the car. As we usually see that.
V8 Irons has had a spin there in the first chicane in Sector 3. But yeah, do want to say this for Gusty. Gusty, things have worked out well enough for him. He's not had a great last few races, but he's maintained enough points that he's not in a horrible position yet. As I say that, though, his teammate Plastic Gloves just has spin at the end of Sector 1. So Gusty having the second fastest... Gusty having a top time right now. Extremely important. Right now, he's the third man in the championship fight. 11 points out of the lead. 6 points out of second. A win here, or just a good podium finish while his rivals don't do so good, would put him back into the championship lead. We've talked a little bit more about Stone Shuffle and Shelby over the last 2 weeks as they've been more performing, but Gusty's been one of the main championship fighters, if not the main championship fighter, since the start of the season. V8 Irons in the Cognizant Aston Martin on a run through.
What does the map say? It is an all-time best in Sector 2 for V8 Irons. Just looking really good so far.
And they have a somewhat curved straightaway downhill. Reminds me of the backstretch at Road Atlanta a bit. In fact, that entire Sector 3 makes me think of a bit of a inverse Road Atlanta.
Shuffle, a half a tenth faster than Mantic Meerkat, who also improved last time by 2 tenths. V8 Irons under the 160. This guy is under the lead right now.
1:15.994. Now, as we've said before, Irons and Boothie, they are not. Plastic Gloves crashed out there. Coming out of the first corner, you can see that car destroyed the DHL barrier. That's not going to help him whatsoever.
Probably shipping the wreckage away, but... Plus a 145.182. This is... Well, I believe Plastic Glove is doomed to get the last place. Probably second to last.
Probably going to be Herbago.
Herbago is
yeah, because
Herbago's
sturdy qualifying man right
coming way into the booth. So, Plastic, we saw you outside of turn 1 in the wall. Can you walk us through what happened?
I was just coming around and coming out of the corner, turn 1, I just put too much on the throttle, so couldn't stop the car in time.
Well, at least we're glad to see you on both of your feet.
Do you think you'll be able to recover in the race and get back in your points paying positions here?
Honestly, yeah. I don't think it was that bad. I mean, I'm on controller. I just switched back from wheel since I was having a couple problems. So I don't think it'll be that difficult. So we'll see though.
Alright, well I do want to say thanks for being willing to jump in and talk with us. Nasty hit, but hopefully the race itself goes better for you.
Veloce on this flying lap and does improve 3 tenths to 1:15.631 as Plastic Club still doing okay, but leaves the booth.
So what we're going to do, like we do every single session, we're going to go silent in the broadcasting booth for a bit. We're going to spin the lap on board with Dave Ewart. He's going to be gaining an arrow pole from Holly Boy on this flying lap, so we can get a real view of what a flying lap here is like at Imola with these cars. Dave Ewart completes a time 1:17.548, and on that onboard you can see there was at least 3 different sections of the circuit that he was struggling to maintain pace at and came very near to invalidating his lap, so not the greatest run there. Veloce now on top of the timesheets with a 15.6.
Both Ferraris putting a lap in a 1:16.1 and 1:16.2 respectively for Chubby and Schumacher, as they appear to be both behind one another on track, so I assume Chubby got some kind of pole.
Thank God that actually helps quite a bit. Excuse me. At this point, we have a bit more than 7.5 minutes left in the session. 15 drivers will advance out of Q1 to get into Q2, but right now, only 11 drivers have set lap times, although we do see, I believe that is Flavor trying to come across the line. He's going to try and be one of the next ones to cross. There's also Ocean Lion, who is making his way through the final corners now. Lion will try and be the 12th driver to set a time in the session. Not a great time. 1:20.1. This is really odd. This session, especially for Q1, we're seeing some really extreme spread in time from the top to the bottom. Right now, we're looking at about 4.5 second difference between Veloce at the top and Ocean Lion OA at the bottom right now.
Looking closer, the top 10 is as closed in by about, well, is within a window of 2 seconds, so it's, well, I was about to say it's not that bad, but still a little bit.
Snake has gone off there in the first corner. Fratters now touches the wall after setting a lap. 1:18.229.
That will be enough for him to go in Q2 if no one else improves or go above the 118. As XRL Flavor makes the last 2 turns of Rivazza, comes on the front stretch. It's looking decent so far. Decent enough to put in P11. As Ocean Lions also is crossing the line. 9th fastest, 1:17.265.
Flavor now crosses the line with a 17.869. I think right now, the way it's looking, if you're in the 16s, you're automatically locked into the next round. Oh, I didn't notice this. Jigsaw has crossed with a 1:16.652, and he elected to do so on the medium tires.
Asserting dominance this early in the session.
Well, his dominance just spun him out in the... that was a little bit close.
in the outside of the Tamburello. The Feathers comes in.
So now the focus goes to Snake. He is in the middle of a lap and will be the 18th driver to set a time.
Going through Variante Villeneuve.
Through the Tosa hairpin and now running uphill.
On turn 8, turn 9, Paratella. Which is a turn I usually go real wide, but I believe it would cancel your lap time. Through Aquaman and Rally without any problem whatsoever. And this to me, the Variante Alta, this chicane, has to be one of the toughest chicanes I've ever went through. Oh, and apparently Dave Ewar has been disqualified.
That's bullcrap. 1:16.713 time, and he spins out, couldn't get going safely, and the game disqualifies him.
And apparently Snake's aboard his lap, as he probably underfueled, or probably jinxed it as well, so... Not looking
well,
great
the game's DSQ of Dave Ewarts has screwed over a bunch of other drivers' laps because when the game disqualified him, it drove his car into the middle of the track and just kind of parked it there. It's finally moved off, but there was about 4 different drivers who had to abort their laps after that, so... Stupid game.
So, Gusty is starting another lap at the moment.
Exits the spot, is now on an outlap right now. Constant Jet with a 118.544 is the barrier, with X hits the spot and XRL Snake trying to knock him out. But whatever's going on with Exits the spot, he's not pushing this lap, I don't think. Either that or there might be something wrong with the... Yeah, there's something wrong for Exits the spot. He is cruising around the circuit, not really pushing. He's just keeping enough heat in the tires, so I'm not sure why he's waiting. XRL Snake is back out onto the circuit as well, as is Fratters, and if X and Snake both put good enough lap times down, Fratters will get squeezed out, so inter-team fight in the McLaren camp by the looks of it.
What's just weird to me is, as you mentioned, exit the spot, going real slow, as he on a hot lap. So we're either looking at an underfueling or an overfueling.
Well, with how quick the laps are here, I think X will still hit the line with enough time to set 2 flyers if he so chooses.
Looks like Hates the Spot is back up to pace. As we have a bunch of drivers just exiting the session for whatever reason. First Stone Shuffle and now Jigsaw.
I mean, they all know that they're locked in, they're safe until the next round. There's no point in staying on the circuit, so they just retire. It normally means that we can move from one session to another and qualifying a bit faster. So yeah, exits the spot in that non-push lap, sets up 37.6. Now he's starting to lay on the ERS and starting to tackle the corners with a bit more gusto.
Variante Villeneuve.
A bit farther back, XRL Snake has also begun his flying lap. Constant Jet is on an out lap right now. Fratters, who is just ahead of Exit Spot, is on a lap as well right now. XRL Flavor is also on an out lap. Wild Nissan is in the middle of an improved lap right now, so the AlphaTauris are feeling a little bit of the heat, and they want to improve their times just to further the chance of both of them making it into the second round of qualifying.
As both the AlphaTauris are standing right now, someone probably gets a spot between both of them. Above the both of them, that Whip could probably have someone actually beating both the AlphaTauris and Ocean Lion as well.
Fratters pulled off circuit. Fratters pulled off circuit right there in the last
spot
corner.
In 116, 9th position. He is safe.
All right, so now Fratters is on the bubble. Now Fratters is squeezed out. as Snake comes up to a 16.899. So now Flavor is the driver on the bubble. Nissan has to sweat because Fratters and Constant Jet need to put better laps down now.
Fratters almost in the wall, exiting the Tamborella. So, I believe his lap will be aborted, or if he can make it.
There's no time to abort. He needs to push now and hope they can find a bunch of time somehow.
This is not looking really good at the moment. Constant Jet cannot
crosses. So it's up to Fratters. Oh, not a good run over the curbs there. Yeah, Fratters is down time by over 2 seconds. He might as well abort now. He's not going to make it. So in the end, this means that both AlphaTauris will advance to the next round of qualifying. So
really looks like Constant Jet is actually, well, he did saw the checkered flag, so there's no point in him for actually gunning for one last attempt.
To put things in perspective, though, for Fratters, he made up 8/10 in the final sector alone. If he had that sector 3 on a more proper lap, he would have likely knocked at least Constant Jet down and possibly leapfrogged Flavor for position. So a bad start to the lap, and he just was not able to make that time up.
Which is sad because it is only 2/10, but in a world where some lap times are counted 3 digits after the second, I'm not gonna say it's a whole universe. That would be for a couple of seconds, but really sad for him not have improved enough to actually go.
It's the impact of striking a meteor in the middle of a Russian forest and striking a meteor into Moscow.
I mean, in Moscow they do have Putin to protect them. So I would not count on it.
All right, well, here's the lineup at the end. Of note, Jigsaw 8th fastest on the medium tire, so he has an extra set of softs he can abuse. But the drivers that will not advance, Dave Ewark got disqualified for bullcrap reasons. Herbago is serving a qualifying ban. Plastic Love crashed out and didn't have a really good lap before that anyways. And then Fratters and Constant Jet not fast enough to make it in. Flavor and Nissan the AlphaTauris advance, as is Ocean Lion the Williams. Mantic Meerkat in the Haas. Collie Boy in the Alfa Romeo. Snake in the McLaren. Exit Spot in the Williams. Jigsaw in the Alpine. Boothie in the Aston. Schumacher SF7 in the Ferrari. Gusty in the Red Bull. Shelby in the other Ferrari. Stone Shuffle in the Mercedes. Irons in the Aston Martin. And Veloce in the Haas.
So, Q1. Fastest lap, a 1:15.6. Do you reckon we could break beneath the 1:15 in Q2?
I don't think so. I think we're probably going to be seeing 1:15's flats, but I don't think we'll be seeing anything below 1:15.
Oh, not even a 1:14.9?
Nah, I wouldn't put money on it.
Well, maybe not in Q2, but I really am expecting those 1:15 flats, possibly beneath that in Q1.
Well, I know one thing we can expect, because we have a dry qualifying session, we're definitely going to see a lot of drivers trying to abuse and manipulate tire strategy here to try and work in their favor in the race itself. First driver to get onto the circuit this session looks like it's going to be Boothby 116. He is also taking the circuit on the set of medium tires.
And he is immediately followed by both Hasses of Veloce and Mantic Meerkat.
Also, I do want to go ahead and say this to Veloce real quickly. Veloce, he sometimes does co-comments with me for the Realistic League on Saturdays. Veloce was initially a X2 driver due to, I'm not aware of all the circumstances, but he was basically kicked and served a ban from XRL in general. He is trying to recover and return from that, so he's making his way back up through the field. He's gone through Dev, now he's trying to perform in X3. His hope is that he performs well enough in X3 that they will let him go back up into X2 by the time the next season starts and he can get back to where he was before. And honestly, with the speed and pace Veloce has been showing, I think he may be able to wrap up a win today if, they don't bungle strategy in the Haas camp.
I mean, from what we saw so far, he had the fastest lap over his next opponent by like what, a third of a second. The man is fast. The man is fast. So you could be possibly counting on it.
Well, he's coming across the start-finish line right now. I'm gonna fully admit, one thing that always kind of not freaks me out, but catches me off guard is how on a lot of the Formula 1 or just FIA Grade 1 tracks in general, the start-finish line is behind the starting grid. That just, when I see that, it kind of catches me off guard sometimes. I'm used to the concept of having the start-finish line in front of the starting grid.
And Boothie has to abort his lap after going in the gravel pit on the outside of T6.
Big twitch for Veloce. Boothie, it looks like he's totally pulled out now. As long as he has fuel to go for another flyer, though, it should be fine. So right now, it looks like the first driver to go across the line with a flyer. Oh, and now Veloce pulls off. So I guess it goes back to Boothie, because although Boothie's not pushing, he didn't invalidate his lap. So Meerkat now pulls off circuit. So yeah, actually no, it's going to be Veloce who will be the first driver across the line with a time. He'll set the time that everyone else will be chasing, and that will be a 1:16.
Looks like a 1:15. 1:15.993. This guy's rapid.
And that was a pretty significant twitch there at the start of Sector 2 after he went around Boothie. Now Boothie crosses a 33, but obviously he pulled way back, basically right after the 4th, 5th turn, and immediately starts rolling the pace down. So we'll see him improve without a doubt. So now we see it's going to be V8 Irons cross the line to begin his flyer lap. We're also going to see Jigsaw cross the line.
Faster.
And we knew he had this kind of pace considering the incredible time he set in the last session on medium tires when everyone else was on softs. So Jigsaw fighting to maybe steal another win before the season's out.
Snake.
17.739. That's the fastest on the medium tires thus far, but that's still the better part of 2 seconds, about 1.8 seconds off of the next fastest time. Now we see another driver coming to the line. That is going to be
Ocean Lion.
1:17.732.
There's only 7 thousandths of a second between him and Snake.
Gusty, one of your tile containers, is out on circuit, but it's not gone well for him. He's invalidated this lap and he's low on fuel, so he's probably going to bring it right into the pits immediately. Irons and Boothie both in the middle of laps right now.
As it Mantic Meerkat?
Mantic Meerkat.
Below the 117.
16.7. He's close to his teammate when it comes to place, but he's about 8/10 off of him. Overall, Irons crosses with a 16.645. That's the fastest on the medium tires we've seen thus far today. Now we're seeing an AlphaTauri driver come out into the circuit.
Boothie, big wiggle. Up the gravel pit outside of 3.
Apparently, Veloce is actually on mediums. If for whatever reason, he's just literally just messaged me and let him know that he's on mediums. But the game says that he set his best time on the softs. So, well, we just fixed it now. No, we didn't. Never mind. Weird glitch. Shelby Spark and Schumacher now both out on circuit. This time, Shelby is the one leading his teammate. So I guess Shelby's going to try and give Schumi a pull. Shelby likes to do this thing where he'll set a lap on the softs without touching ERS whatsoever, but he's skipping that altogether. He's going right out there on mediums, laying on the ERS, and lucky for him, no one's really ahead of him, so he's going to have relatively clear track. Schumacher SF7 just a little bit behind. I don't know if Schumacher was close enough to get a good draft down the main straight or not. but he will be able to follow in his teammates' footsteps. They're both running medium tires right now in the Ferrari camp. Also just behind them is Gusty in the Red Bull, although Gusty has only just gotten out onto the circuit. Right now, we're looking at Flavor in the middle of his flyer. Nissan's just begun his lap. So as it stands right now, it looks like it's going to be X. No, that's not X. Who is that? Is that Ocean Lion? Yeah, it looks like Ocean Lion is going to be coming across the line shortly here. He's up by nearly half a second at the end of Sector 2, so a lot more pace than that Williams.
So for him, we're looking possibly a low 17. Below 17,
16.9. Picked up a lot of time there in the final sector. It works out well for him. Now we see Collie Boy jump up to third with a 16.3. And now here come the Ferraris. Shelby comes across the line first, 16.172. He'll be joined by Schumacher SF7, 16.823.
It's still looking decent for both the Ferraris, although for Schumacher, I would try to do another lap. Medium or soft, I really don't know. It's only down to them. But I would do another lap just to securize the position.
Yeah, I think the big thing that really hurts Schumacher is that even if you get a tremendous run down the main straight from draft, so many of the corners here are that real subtle, sneaky, medium to high speed corners. Getting caught in someone else's draft can destroy your times. Boothie has improved up to a 17.274. Flavor now sets a 19.552. His teammate Wild Nissan GTR aborts his lap. So the focus now goes again to title contender Gusty, who is also on mediums right now.
24.8 in Sector 1. Are we looking at a personal best in Sector 2?
It's going to always say personal best in
all-time
Sector 2 because it was... Well, so when it says purple in this game, it just means best for that person in this session. So if it's his very first lap, it's going to say that every section is purple, even if it's an absolutely horrible run.
Alright, so we cannot have nice thing on this game. Alright, I get it.
Gusty had a really bad run through the second sector there, so I don't think this is going to be a great lap, but will still be good enough, I think, to get him top 9. There we are, 9th exactly, 17.026. I think if he knows what he's doing, he'll go for another lap and be confident that he can improve.
And for me, the fuel icon on his HUD is not displayed, so he is probably pushing for another lap. As he appears not to be backing down, so still following Gusty. 24.6 in the Sector 1.
Up by 2/10.
Up by 2/10, 0.208.
Fuel light now beginning to flash. He will make it to the line, but it will be a long, long run back to the pits afterwards. Big thing, though, is that this might work in his favor. The car will be a little bit lighter, so he can theoretically take a bit more speed through the corner and exit and accelerate, and he invalidates. Oh, and the Ferrari of Shelby has a spin just ahead as well, so two tile containers having issues at almost the same part of the track, and that's Mantic Meerkat as well, who's having an issue at the top of the hill.
Doesn't look like much of an issue for Mantic Meerkat. Probably just slowing down on the side of the track to let the Red Bull by.
So now the focus goes to your current points leader, Stone Shuffle. He has soft tires equipped, so I imagine as long as he doesn't make any mistakes, it should be an easy run into the top 10 for him with this set of rubber.
24.493 in Sector 1. Looks good so far to me.
Coming across the end of Sector 2, it's a 50.848. Ooh, very nearly invalidated, but it's still clean, it's still legal, he's still pushing. Wild Nissan GTR also back out on circuit, trying to go for another flyer right now.
As the spot does improve from 121 to a 116.347, and upset a little bit more the order.
That puts XRL Gusty on the bubble of getting squeezed out, and Stone Shuffle's going to try and squeeze him out with this time. Yes, he does.
And he does.
Stone Shuffle, 16.442. So now it's Ocean Lion on the bubble. Schumacher has already gone back out on circuit. He's basically taken the advice you gave and is already out there again. He's on outlap right now. Wild Nissan, he'll be the last driver to set a time in the session. What can he do? Well, last driver set a new time in the session, I should say.
Well, he has no one in
Or
front. He
first
has no one in front of him whatsoever. I believe the McLaren is on his out lap, so he is clear from what I see. 51.390 in sector 2.
I don't think it's going to be a great lap.
Real nice and
I don't think it's going to be a great lap by Nissan, but it doesn't need to be a great lap. It just needs to be good enough to get him into the top 10.
All he has to do is a 16.7 for me to be at least safe to go in Q3. Exit of Ravazza, really clean, really nice. What can he post? It's a 17.343, only 13th in.
So right now, both of the AlphaTauri drivers are on the outside looking in, as is XRL Snake, last week's winner at Russia. Boothia is also on the outside looking in, and he's invalidated the lap he's in the middle of right now, as is title contender Gusty. And it's Ocean Lion, who is in a really interesting position.
2 minutes 40 seconds remaining for everyone to try to improve. As Jigsaw and Veloce bail out of the session. I mean,
yeah, I think they know that their times are unassailable. No one has really come close to breaking the 16.
The only one that could probably, well, the only ones that could probably post a lap in the 115s are your drivers from third to fifth. Possibly Stone Shuffle if he's out again. And Schumacher does improve from 9th to 5th at 116.385 on the mediums as well.
Alright, so in the process, that pushes Stone Shuffle down a little bit more. But again, I think if you're in the top 7 on the timesheets right now, you're pretty much safe. Although Stone Shuffle is out on circuit, I think he's going for another lap. Fuel is low, ERS is burning, but he did improve from his first lap to his second lap. He's at 16.442 now. If he can keep this together, he might be able to improve again. He's up by almost a full quarter of a second by the end of Sector 2. So if Shuffle keeps that up, that will move him, that would put him to about 4th on the timesheets, if not 3rd.
Probably splitting the Ferraris if hits the spot. Does not try to improve on this lap, and I believe he won't.
Just a bit
And
more
what
than
are
a
we
minute
looking
left in
at?
the session.
Oh,
Woo,
third.
Shuffle,
Above
third
both
fastest,
Ferraris.
16.067. Ocean Lion retires now in the pits. He says that he can't go faster. He's not going to try to. Mantic Meerkat has just had a spin there in Sector 2. So right now, Gusty, Nissan, Boothie, Snake, and Flavor all trying to see if they can find a way through. Gusty has invalidated the lap he's in the middle of. Could we see one of our title contenders not make it to the final round of qualifying? Meerkat now being pushed onto the bubble. 16.737. Nissan has invalidated the lap he's in the middle of. Flavor is on an out lap right now, trying to go faster on the soft tires. Gusty got to the line in time. He will be able to get one more lap in, but he cannot afford to botch this attempt. He needs to improve by about a third of a second around the circuit here.
Meerkat does the bonus lap.
Time's up. Over for the session. I normally say that at the end of Sector 3, of Session 3. I don't know why I was going to say that in Session 2. Alright. Gusty had a purple Sector 1, so he is up at least in Sector 1. Can he maintain it in Sector 2?
Yes, he does. No big shuffle outside on the exit of Aquaman Rally. That's a 50.6 in Sector 2. He is up half a second. This is looking good so far. We're possibly looking at an 8th spot and making it to Q3. Entering Ravazza, nice and easy. Smooth exit. Really is looking good. It's a 1.
He's in! Woo! Whoa! Wait, he saved it all for last. He is one of only 3 drivers to make it into the 15s, and he's only 0.02 of a second faster than Veloce right now. Flavor does improve up to 14th, but will not be able to fight for the top 10. Mantic Meerkat gets squeezed out by Gusty's incredible lap at the end, and it's going to be V8 Irons and Boothie who keep the Aston Martin dream alive. Once again, both Aston Martins will run in the final round of qualifying.
And looking at our pretenders for Q3, I believe we only have both the Aston Martins and both Ferraris as full teams in the Q3. Yes, they are.
And that's why those two have been the main two teams vying for a Manufacturers Championship this season. But of note, V8 Irons, Schumacher SF7, Exit to Spot, Shelby Spark, and Veloce all set their fastest time on medium tires, so those 5 will be starting the race on mediums, while Boothie, Collie Boy, Stone Shuffle, Gusty, and Jigsaw will be starting on worn softs to begin the race. And again, the 5 drivers that do not advance are going to be Mantic Meerkat, Ocean Lion 08, Wild Nissan GTR, XRL Flavor, and XRL Snake.
So, with that said, your top 10 drivers within a second of each other. This is... Well, I'm still expecting for Q3 to have less spread between lap times of everybody. Since now we'll be looking at drivers going all out on softs and not half of them on mediums. So we've seen a 115.6 in Q1, a 115.7 as fastest in Q2. Maybe I was a bit optimistic, saying we would be knocking on the doors of the low 114s in Q3. Still,
one thing that you can be confident in is that Aston Martin is immediately tackling the track right away. V8 Iron is going to be a first driver to get out onto the circuit. So I just want your opinion. Do you, if you're in a position like Schumacher, do you go out there and help give your teammate Shelby a draft down the main straightaway to improve his qualifying time, and then immediately pull off in turn 1, knowing that will sacrifice a bunch of time for yourself? Or do you just hope that you and him can both do the best you possibly can with clean track?
I mean, both of them will all try to post the fastest lap they can on a clean track, but as we both know them, Schumacher will do anything he can to help his teammate get to the driver's trophy at the end of the season. So for me it will be a mix between your first and your third option. The third option you give me, as in if anything, if both of them are the highest they can be on the grid for the start of the race, it will be for the better.
I will say this, Shelby Spark has done relatively good in qualifying, but his initial race, his ability to launch right at the start leaves a little bit to be desired. At Montreal, he had a not-so-great start, and his teammate Schumacher completely botched it. Then at Brazil, Shelby Spark spun right off, well, not right off the line, but right going into the braking in turn 1, and caused not quite a pileup, but about 4 other drivers also spun in reaction. And then we saw last week at Russia, that was a circuit that Shelby was very excited to run on, and he was out-dragged and couldn't do anything against his rival Stone Shuffle there. So, great starting position is imperative for Shelby, but he needs to be able to capitalize and actually, put the power down in the best way possible. Alright, so everyone except for Stone Shuffle out on circuit right now.
Stone Shuffle will be playing mind games and waiting for the track to be less encumbered, as everybody but him is actually on track. It is a strategy in itself, and sometimes it pays a lot more dividends than you might think of.
But the counterpoint to that, though, is that it takes away very valuable time that he may need to set other laps if he ends up in a position that a lap is invalidated or just ends up being compromised in some way. All right, first driver across the line for the pole session. Coming to the line, the DRS pops open. It will be a time of 1:15.849, so we're right back where we were earlier. Veloce has aborted and gone right into the pit, so it goes to Gusty, who has to also abort right into the pit because he invalidated his lap, so it's going to be not Boothie because he's in the middle of an outlap. So it will be exits the spot in the Williams, who will be the second driver to set time in the session.
Exiting Rivazza, nice and clean. We're possibly looking at another 115. Yes, we are. 115.595.
So now the focus goes to Jigsaw.
I believe this is the fastest lap of this qualifying session so far.
Well, Jigsaw, I think, is probably going to go even faster. He definitely has a lot of pace in that Alpine.
Looks
Across
like
the line,
it.
he'll set time.
115.7 clear.
And now here come the Ferraris. Schumacher is leading Shelby Spark.
Looks real good. 115.604. What? We're knocking on the low 40s, so 115.057.
So the Ferrari camp made the toe off of Schumacher's car work, and even despite that, let's not beat around the bush. Schumacher put down a very impressive lap in the Ferrari as well. So great job on both of those guys to get what is currently the first and third fastest times. All right, here comes Boothie now, out of the final corner. The DRS will pop open shortly after they cross pit lane entry, and he will set a lap time of 115.966.
Everybody over 160. This is absolute madness.
Collie Boy has invalidated the lap he's in the middle of. Veloce and Gussie have already gotten back out into the circuit for outlaps. Stone Shuffle, there's still no movement in the Mercedes camp to get him out onto the track. We saw Gussie pull out the second fastest time in the prior session. So I think if Shelby's going to have to deal with someone else taking the top spot, it might be this man here right now. He is only on an outlap right now. He's kind of backing off so that way the gap between himself and Veloce can open up. Veloce already hoofing it around the circuit. I think he's betting on the Ferraris and Collie Boy ahead to come into the pits.
Both Ferraris in, Collie Boy also in. So, Veloce, possibly your fastest man. Oh, that's an enormous wiggle out of Rivazza.
That's not going to help him because it's going to compromise the straightaway speed he'll have.
Let's see how can he makes up for it. This man does have raw speed. He is possibly on track right now. The fastest, well, I was about to say single driver, as in mentioning that Shelby did have his toe from his teammate Schumacher. I mean, for me right now, as of hot lapping, Veloce is your reference.
And he is invalidated, though. And that's the thing, though. You can be mad fast, but if you can't control the speed, it can lead to an issue. So Veloce is going to have to immediately back out, start saving fuel, and get ready to go again. Or keep pushing hard so he can rush into the pits right away. Collie Boy in the pits, as Stone Shuffle is as well. Shuffle in the Mercedes camp. They have still not made an effort to get him out onto the circuit. We're already halfway through the session. Gussie has also invalidated this lap as well. So two of your fastest drivers have not been able to set a lap time thus far. Two of your title contenders have not been able to set a lap time thus far. And Collie Boy, the only driver in the Alfa Romeo camp, has not been able to set a lap either. Now we see both of the Aston Martins, Boothie and Irons, are both out on circuit. Boothie is on a cooldown lap, though, so for whatever reason, he went out there and then almost immediately pulled out. He's already 5 seconds out, so this is not going to be a lap. Oh, it's not... That was a pair of really square hits, but the second one's knocked off an end plate for the wing. That will basically mean that this lap and Irons' attempt onto the circuit in general is ruined.
This possibly was the best case scenario that could happen to V8 Irons, as hitting both walls really square, really on the sides of his car, because now he can go back to the pits, having his front wing changed, and possibly go back on track to get another attempt.
Boothie invalidates in almost the exact same corner that his teammate went off circuit at. So the Aston Martin team, which has been extremely good in qualifying, they've both made it to this round, but they're struggling to put together a lap that they're happy with right now. Meanwhile, Gusty in the middle of the lap once more. The fuel light is flashing, so he's going to be very light when he crosses the line. It's a 50.9 for him at the end of Sector 2.
Nice.
He's invalidated. In the last corner, Gusty ends up invalidating. Collie Boy's back onto the circuit now. And finally, in the Mercedes camp, they have finally sent Stone Shuffle out onto the circuit. Boy, they waited a long time. And they didn't even time it very well because Exits the Spot is on track just a little bit farther up as well.
Collie Boy started his lap at 127.6 on his out lap. Which does look a little bit on par with what we've seen so far. Outlaps that are between 10 and 12 seconds slower. And already trashed.
Validates immediately in the first corner.
Oh. Loses it on the outside of 6.
Good news is no one on circuit behind him, so he doesn't have to worry too much about it. As long as the tires aren't completely melted, he should be able to still get another lap in. Yeah, Stone Shuffle has actually closed in on Exits the Spot, and they're both on outlaps. There's a risk that X might end up compromising Stone Shuffle's lap. Yeah, you can see the Mercedes backing way out now on the run down to the last corners. There we are. Now they're both underway. X currently has the second fastest time with a 15.595. Stone Shuffle has not set a time yet. And now both Ferraris look like they're coming back onto the circuit.
Only 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes left to post a lap, and we still have a little bit less than half the drivers trying to post a lap. Collie Boy and Stone Shuffle are on their way to do so. 24.444 for Stone Shuffle at the end of Sector 1.
Gusty and Veloce are on outlaps again, and they're rushing, but I'm going to be honest, in the Haas and the Rebel camp, they've run through so many sets of soft tires, I'm a little bit concerned as to what their soft tires are going to look like in the race itself. I think they've used almost every set they've had between Q1, Q2, and Q3 now.
15.528 for Stone Shuffle from Sector 2. Nice and clean, exiting Variante Alta. Makes his way down the Rivata.
Gusty finally beginning a lap once more. Exits the spot. Can he improve up through grid? He does improve.
Stone Shuffle's on a good lap right now.
115.226.
That's the 115.773. He's in the top 5.
And he has fuel to go for another run at it. Now we see the Ferraris coming across the line as they're going to try and go faster. Schumacher and Shelby have a much larger gap between them this time. Veloce in the middle of his lap. Gusty in the middle of his lap. Collie Boy has invalidated his lap. And the 13 seconds left. Collie's barely going to get to the line. But he'll get one last shot. But these three drivers, Veloce, Gusty, and Collie, cannot afford to invalidate another lap. Jigsaw, who's fourth fastest right now, has invalidated his lap, so he's not going to be able to go faster. What can Veloce do? Out of the final corner. He's waited a long time to set the time. What will it be?
Looking fast.
15.355.
Ooh, Exit the spot did improve with a 115.2.
And Irons now improves up to a 15.612. So everyone thus far same times in the 15 range. Gusty out of the final corner. He'll finally get a lap in at the end of the session.
This is awfully
not good though. I mean, it's a lap at least, but that was rough.
Real rough considering Boothie is ahead by almost over a second.
Schumacher runs way off circuit there in the final corner. Shelby is coming to the line. Can he improve?
Yes, he does.
Did it! Holy moly, he broke the 15 barrier in the Ferrari camp.
I was hoping to see 114 tonight. Jesus.
And Collie Boy will round out the session with a 16.5. That's good enough for 9th.
Jesus Christ. That was fast.
That's the Ferrari master plan, I guess.
I mean, sure, when Binotto is not around. I mean, we're giving crap to the man, but if in 2022 we can pull off the great Ferrari master plan, I'd be happy. Because talking briefly about RL Formula 1, it hurts a lot not to see Ferrari on top of that game.
Yeah, you tell me about it. I won't lie, I basically only watch Formula 1 for Monaco, Montreal, and Ferrari. Alright, well this is your top 10. Shelby Spark with a 14.787. X is the spot. Let's not discount him. X put on an incredible lap in the Williams, 15.226. As did Veloce and the Haas, 15.355. Stone Shuffle will be starting fourth with a 15.518. Schumacher fifth with a 15.604. Vea Iron sixth with a 15.612. Jigsaw seventh with a 15.7. Booth the 8th with a 15.966. Collie Boy with a 16.526. Gusty will start 10th with a 16.963.
Not the best of his lap so far, as I believe I saw him do in the previous session, either Q1 or Q2, posting a below 116.5. So something definitely happened. Really sad to see that he had to settle for a lap this slow when you know the man is mad fast.
Yeah. Well, now it is the wait until we get to the start of the race, about 5 minutes until we get to the start of the race. But before we get too far into that, I want to go ahead, talk real quickly about the championship fights as they are right now. In the Manufacturers Championship, AlphaTauri has finally broken the triple-digit numbers. They are still 10th with 117 points. 9th is the Alpine team. They have 155 points there. 8th is Alfa Romeo with 169. 7th is Haas with 180 points. They're just 11 out from Williams, who is 6th with 191. And then Red Bull's not too far away either. They are 5th with 219. Right above Red Bull is 4th, McLaren with 221 points. So depending on how these last 3 races go, we could see a 4-way fight for 4th in the Manufacturers Championship. 3rd place, Mercedes, has 292 points right now. 2nd is Aston Martin with 295 points. Still leading is the Scuderia Ferrari team with 315 points in the Manufacturers Championship. Then you go ahead and you look at the Drivers' Championship as it stands right now. At the bottom, the fight has turned a light between Plastic Love and Constant Jet. Jet has 5 points, Plastic Love has 6. 18th is XRL Pingu, he has 18 points. 17th is Robago 91 with 22 points. 16th is Wild Nissan GTR with 25 points. 15th is Fratters with 32 points. He's just one off of Dave Ewart, who is 14th with 33 points. Boothie is 13th with 35 points, so really close fight there from about 13th to 15th. Then 12th you have Jalebin with 44 points. 11th is Flavor with 49. If he keeps earning just a handful of points here and there and some misfortune follows the drivers ahead, Flavor could end the season with a top 10 points finish. 10th right now is Collie Boy with 53 points. 9th is Ocean Line with 61. 8th is Schumacher SF7 with 83 points. 7th is Exit the Spot with 106. 6th is XRL Snake with 107. So an interesting little fight can brew there for 6th in drivers' points. 5th is XRL Jigsaw with 150. He's trying to run down VA Irons, who is 4th with 173. And then you get to your 3 championship contenders. 3rd is XRL Gusty. He's going to be starting 10th today's race. He has 213 points. 2nd is Shelby Spark with 219. He is starting on the pole. 1st is Stone Shuffle. He has 224 points. He is going to be starting 4th.
So in some way, we do still have a 3-way fight for the Drivers' Championship. Because when you look at it from 224 to 213, there's only 11 points between all of them, and considering the actual point standing system, the battle is pretty much still on, even with 3 rounds to go.
Shelby's been doing really good in qualifying. He's been on the front row for, I think, the last 5 or 6 races straight without issue. The big thing, though, is that his ability to convert those front row starts into wins has been questionable, sometimes due to him, sometimes due to just the way the race has gone. Realistically, I think Stone Shuffle has the upper hand, not just because of where they are on the racetrack, but when it comes to, not where they are in the points battle. I think Stone Shuffle is a lot better in converting adversity in the race into a good finish. And not just that, Stone Shuffle seems to have a little bit better luck at avoiding adversity more often than not. But again, we've seen this championship points lead change almost every week. I think we're at a rate of like once every 1.75 races we're seeing a new leader in the Drivers' Championship this season. It's been that kind of year. Real quickly, as we look one more time at the starting grid, top three, Shelby, Exit Spot, and Veloci will all be starting on mediums. Stone Shuffle fourth, he'll be starting on softs. Schumacher and Irons in fifth and sixth, they'll both be starting on mediums. Then a little bit farther down the grid, V8, XRL Flavor, who is starting 14th, he'll be starting on mediums, as will Constant Jet 16th in the Alpine, and Plastic Love 18th in the Red Bull. Everyone else seems to be starting on soft tire compounds. We should be getting underway relatively shortly here. So, like I've said before, go ahead, I would just ask for you to go ahead, put some focus on the back of the grid when we come to the start of this race for the first lap or so. So if something happens, you can cut me off and we can change focus on that real quickly.
If the game lets me do so. Because I'm still stuck in a loading screen and...
Oh, do you want to try backing out and then jumping back in?
There's actually nothing I can... Oh, wait. I mean, I'm still waiting players for some reason.
Well, we're starting in like 27 seconds now, so...
I mean, we'll see what happened.
Imola, the second Italian Grand Prix of the season, third to last race, with championship contenders starting first, fourth, and 10th. This could go in any direction. There's also still a close manufacturer's title battle as well, and drivers still trying to wrap up the season with a few more wins and a good cap to the season. What are we going to see?
There we are.
4 lights, 5 lights.
We're racing in Imola.
It's lights out. Away we go here at Imola. Right off the start, it's not a good run by either of the top two. In fact, the entire top 4 all on top of each other. There's a lot of movement going on back there. There's a William and a Red Bull off circuit. Exits the spot. Veloce contact for second and third. X around right in front of Stone Shuffle. Shuffle is hit by a bunch of other cars. Magic Meerkat's out. And now the Aston Martin spins back onto the circuit. It's a chaos as Herbondo and the other Mercedes has also been taken out. A massive multi-car crash at the start.
Safety
which
cars
started
out.
when Veloce and Exits the spot got into each other right at the start of the event. Boothie, the entire front ring, ripped off that car. Exits the spot. Does he have damage on that car? No, but he did go off circuit and has now fallen to the back of the grid. Wild Nissan, does he have damage to the car? I think there is some front wing damage. There is an end plate that looks like it's missing on Nissan's machine. For Constant Jet, who had a relatively decent time, in qualifying, he is now back there in 15th. Ocean Lion, he's there in 14th. Gusty has fallen all the way down to 13th. Flavor has moved up into 12th position off of all this. And Stone Shuffle
lost a couple of positions. It was P4, now P11. As of right now, the people up front have not moved a lot, as Chubby is still first, and both Veloci and Jigsaw are just swap places.
Polyboy has to have a top spot to repair damage to that car, so that will have a small knock-on effect. Gusty, apparently there is damage on the Red Bull for Gusty, so he has to come into the pits and now repair the car. He's coming in with Wild Nissan, exit spot. Boothie, obviously he's going to have to pit as well. The entire front wing's gone off of his machine.
So your biggest mover upwards as of right now are both McLarens, gaining respectively 9th and 10th spot. Plastic Love did go up from 18th to 8th. And Dave Ewart, I believe, went from the back of the grid up to 9th. Damn. Mayhem does happen fast.
And that's what happens. We saw their Veloce and Exit spot gain into it. They tried running side by side, going through the first corner. There's just, honestly, there's not enough room to be going side by side through a lot of these corners. This track was designed with smaller, lighter, nimbler Formula 1 cars in mind. The circuit's not exactly been widened at all, so a lot of the corners, while realistically there's physical space to put 2 cars alongside, taking 2 cars with speed through a lot of these corners, you're just asking for problems.
So interesting choice by your 5 drivers that made to the pits. everybody is now on mediums except for Wild Nissan, which elected to go out with a set of hard tires. So are we looking at someone that could possibly do a short pit at the end of the race to go on soft and maybe try to pull out a fast lap, try to survive on hard during the whole race?
Definitely wouldn't be a bad option, to say the least. Well, we're gonna have to go another lap until we get underway. The good news is, under this long yellow flag run, we're gonna see a lot of drivers who intentionally underfueled for this race, like Schumacher SF7. They'll be able to get some of their fuel back in the, well, kind of make up ground in a sense, and be a little bit safer when it comes to fuel to the end of the race. But Schumacher is still underfilled right now. I think he's the only one at the moment. But again, under this long yellow flag, he should be able to make up even more spots, well, even more ground in that. Well, we're going to go ahead, because we didn't try it earlier, we're going to try and talk with both Mantic Meerkat and Herbago, see what happened from their perspective at the start of that massive lap 1 incident. For the Mercedes team, that's not good, though, because that's the second race in a row where their number 2 driver has had an incident at the start or early on and will not be able to finish the event. Also of note, when it comes to manufacturer's title, V8 Irons is still on circuit in 4th, but his teammate Boothie is now relegated back to 18th, while both Ferraris are still in the top 5. All right, there's the word official safety car coming in this lap. So how does Cubby Spark back up the field coming to the green flag?
So, as of right now, in your top 3, the one that had some that has some kind of advantage is Jigsaw running on soft tires. So I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of laps Jigsaw takes the lead of this race.
Big thing though is that those soft tires, they have more laps of wear on them than it shows, because that's the same set of tires he set his fastest lap in qualifying session 2. Oh, Jigsaw has a tremendous launch right at the start. He's already trying to pull alongside Veloce on the run down to turn 1.
But nose in the gearbox, looking on the inside, backs off.
Ooh, that did not work out well for Jigsaw. Irons now putting pressure on him. The top 2 also right on top of each other. Look at that, Veloce trying to see if he can find a way to peek by Chubby Spark here.
Chubby did give him room, but he was fast enough to keep it ahead of Haas. Everybody makes it through.
Constant Jet and Gusty fell off at the back of the circuit a bit. Ooh, Chubby did not have a good run through there, and that kind of backed up the entire front 4 on top of each other. Dave Ewart gets my plastic glove back there for the 8th position now. Jigsaw trying to utilize the soft tires. He gets right underneath Veloce's rear wing coming out of the last corner there. Farther back, Schumacher is trying to hold off Snake.
Oh, Jigsaw for the move on Veloce on the inside in turn 1.
Some shuffle on Plastic Glove for 9th position.
Haas is fighting back.
Red Bull and Mercedes side by side. Contact! But Shuffle does get by. Veloce has lost both positions to Irons and Jigsaw now. Oh, and there's a Jigsaw way off circuit.
Can he save it? He is off the wall.
But he has lost all the positions that he had. That now promotes Irons up into 2nd. We know the Aston Martin and Ferrari drivers aren't super good friends, but the gap between 1st and 2nd has now turned to 2.4 seconds. Veloce is now going to have to try and run down Irons to try and get back into position to fight for the win of this race. Stone Shuffle has gone now from 10th to 8th. And He's already trying to put pressure on Fratters in the McLaren. So already Stone Shuffle relying on his special talent. Might as well have a cutie mark showcasing his ability to maximize the best out of a bad day. Chubby Sparks fastest lap, 118.8, and he's saying that on medium tires. Incredible.
DRS is now on.
Well, DRS won't really turn on until the following laps because of the way the detection zones work, but yeah.
Also,
Veloce did not have a good run there. Here comes Schumacher on Veloce now.
Oh, and Jigsaw is actually on pit lane. Oh.
Contact! Ferrari!
Schumacher lost an end
Haas,
plate.
contact! And he was really too aggressive there, went right to the side of the Haas, and that's the price you pay.
I mean, Schumacher did have some pace advantage over him.
True, but you really can't make any overtakes at the circuit. That's the big thing. You can only overtake on the first corner, and that's about it. Or obviously capitalize on someone else's misfortune. Constant Jet has had an instant there in Sector 1, although he has already gotten back underway. Also near the front, Irons has already closed down on Chubby, so V8 Irons has pace faster than Chubby right now, it would appear. Veloce raw circuit there, and Snake is gonna thread his way right by.
Side by side.
Snake will have DRS because of where the DRS detection zone was, and Dave Ewart has DRS on both of them. I think we're going to see the Alfa Romeo get alongside the Haas in the braking zone. No, he backs out of it.
Wise move from Dave.
Farther back, Stone Shuffle is there in 7th, trying to see what he can do to Fratters.
He did
now
some ground.
Veloce gets by Snake, and Snake's off. Snake's gone off circuit now. And he's not the only one. Wild Nissan on the hard tire compound is also slid off circuit. That's the risk of running hards. You're going to struggle a lot to maintain proper grip throughout the race.
Gusty fastest lap of 118.332.
But Gusty has the advantage of having just put fresh softs on.
Stone Shuffle looking at the inside of Fratters and ultimately letting Classic Love go by.
Field starting to get spread out near the front and the back from about 5th on to 11th. Everyone's really close to each other right now. Classic Love has a twitch there going into the last 2 corners, but shoots out of the final one with good momentum. So while Stone Shuffle will have DRS and ERS that he can play with, he is trying to close on Classic Love. I don't know if he's going to be able to get alongside, let alone make an overtake stick. Dave Ewart overtakes Veloce, and they both run into the gravel trap. They're both off circuit. 3rd and 4th place position cars off circuit in the first corner. Now that's going to cause a stack up as Fratters gets held up in the process. And that worked out perfectly for the Mercedes. Now Stone Shuffle is up into 5th.
That wasn't a, I would say, a really clean block by Haas.
I don't even know if that was a block. It just looked like both of them were kind of had a brain fart moment under braking, and they both thought they had way more room than they did. Shuffle still struggling behind the Red Bull of Classic Love. Love trying to run interference for his teammate Gusty in the title fight. He knows that Stone Shuffle is one of the bigger rivals. Constant Jet off circuit again. Oh, and Plastic Glove's had an incident, and that will let Stone Shuffle move right over and get the position. But I think Plastic Glove timed that so that way he can try and get DRS on the Mercedes going down the main straight. Stone Shuffle immediately lays on the ERS, trying to open up the gap on Plastic Love. Love is not using ERS to close on the Mercedes. He's trying to use yes DRS. Because of that, though, he is closing, but he's not going to be able to get alongside. I think Stone Shuffle has turned the lap 1 accident into a 4th place run in just less than a third of this race. Outstanding!
Ooh, that is not a good exit out of turn 6. But now that Stone Shuffle is putting some distance between him and Plastic Love, his next bit of work will be trying to catch up to Dave Ewar in front of him.
Dave's about 2.2 seconds up the road. And Stone Shuffle and Dave are on the same compound of tires. Snake now making a move on Plastic Love. So although Plastic Love is on medium tires that can theoretically go longer, it seems like they're really struggling in the Red Bull camp to even make those mediums work. He just is extremely slow and off pace coming out of a lot of these corners. Now Snake will have DRS on the Red Bull down the main straight. I think this should be an easy overtake. Calling Boy off into the dirt farther back. That should let X hit the spot, get by for ninth.
Snake makes it through. Will Plastic Love fight back?
Not really a whole lot of fighting back you can do here. It's not like Yas Marina or Monza where there's going to be another DRS zone you can blow by later. And it's not like Spa where a lot of the corners are wide enough you can kind of stick it side by side through there. These corners are not wide enough to really make it a proper over-undercut work. Ooh, big twitch there by Fratters, and that might lead him up to attack from Veloce.
Ooh, really slow through Dorotella. Oh, Stone Shuffle's around.
Oh, and your championship points leader has spun, and for the second time he's involved in the incident, he has fallen out to 11th spot on the racetrack. And now 2 of your title contenders out of the points, and the other one leads the race.
With the fastest lap. Oh wait, nope. Never mind. I don't think that's it.
Dave Ewart pitting out of the 3rd position now as well. I wonder if Stone Shuffle's going to pit. Are the tires that far gone? No. Stone Shuffle's going to stay out on that rubber for the moment at least. As X hits the spot, has overtaken Fratters down the main straight.
Looking at the ball right now, Stone Shuffle, as much as Fratters and XRL Snake, are the 3 people with 10 laps on their soft mediums, while everybody else has either 8 or 10 laps on the mediums. So, if people with soft compound tires pitting now with only 10 laps in their tires, what can we expect for the medium compound? Maybe do half distance?
Probably expect the mediums. I think medium tires could probably get you halfway through the race, but even with that, you're going to need a lot of laps under yellow in order to just go straight medium soft. I think drivers like Wild Nissan, despite that slide earlier, might be in the right choice. Riding hard, so he can elect to throw on softs to the end of this event, assuming he makes it that far.
Or maybe count on the fact that maybe use your medium compound a little bit more, do more than half distance around. If people are pitting with their soft tires between 11 and 12 laps, that means everyone with mediums would have to do between 20 and 22 laps with their mediums, which is 2/3 of the race. Main question is, will the medium compound be efficient long enough? But in the end, it really depends on how hard you're driving with your tires. Looking so far, Chubby Sparks is 2 seconds ahead of the 8 irons, and both of them are in mediums. Snake is running soft compound, but he is 12 seconds back from the 2nd place. So
Plastic Love, despite struggling so hard with those medium tires, it's kind of cycled in his favor because he's now hanging out in 4th position right now.
There's the pit stop light on his dashboard, so I wouldn't be surprised if he dived down pit lane right now.
Yep, here comes the McLaren in.
No, Plastic Love does extend his run, as both him and the house behind him have DRS wide open.
Haas can't get alongside the Red Bull. That straight's not quite straight enough to run comfortably side by side through. So for a moment, Plastic Glove now goes up into third and continues to hold on to a top running spot. It's great to see a Red Bull up here, but it's not the Red Bull that we were anticipating seeing near the front.
But going back to the fact that being comfortable running side by side on the main straight, I believe Veloce would be a little bit more comfortable around Plastic Glove if Plastic Glove was running on the steering wheel. Because as I'm looking right now, his steering input really looks like he's playing with the controller. And I've been doing runs around people on the controller while I was on a steering wheel. You're not comfortable with the guy next to you.
Gusty has partially recovered from the lap 1 accident. He's now hanging out in 15th position, but he's on worn soft tires and he'll have to abort off those tires sooner rather than later. Oh, and Snakes just spun right there out of 10th position. And he was on fresh medium tires, so those tires he was not able to get proper heat in them.
And he will have to wait for his teammate Fathers to go by before going back on track.
Veloce just got by Plastic Glove using DRS down the main straight. So Veloce now back into the podium positions where he started this race out at. And X, who was involved in that lap 1 accident, at the front, he has now recovered somewhat. He's up into 5th now.
Possibly fighting for a podium now, as right now, between these three, between Veloce, Plastic Glove, and X, he is the one with less laps in his medium compound tires than both the guys in front of him.
Also, X has less time penalties than the two drivers ahead as well. Veloce and Plastic have 6 each. X only has 3 seconds right now. Snakes come into the pits. They're throwing on hard compound tires on pit lane. They're anticipating that he'll be on those tires to the end of the race. And that is Boothie, who has gone off there coming out of turn 2. And that means that he will be at risk of going, I think he's going to go a lap down. Is he going to hold up the race leader and try to help Irons catch up? No, he will not. Plastic Glove in pits, as is Stone Shuffle, and Love also got a penalty for speeding in pit lane, and now Boothie spins again back there.
Really hard to get those tires back to back down to temperature again once you've spun.
Stone Shuffle, they've thrown on medium tires in the Mercedes camp, so he's trying to stick with the single stop strategy, soft to mediums to the end of this race, but he has lost a large amount of track position. In fact, Stone Shuffle is now behind Gusty on the circuit. This will be interesting because Gusty's on worn sauce, not dead sauce yet, but worn sauce, and Stone Shuffle's on fresh medium. So two of your title contenders fighting for track position, not points. Gusty nearly goes off circuit.
He is the only driver on track still on soft compound tires, and would you look at that? Wild Nissan, 6th spot with his hard compound tires on still.
And that was with a bit of a spin earlier. It's worked out well for him, but the big problem for Nissan is that because of where the field is at, he basically needs a safety car or at least a VSC to come out when he wants to make a stop, so that way he doesn't have to lose as much time in the pits compared to the rest of the field. So he's in a good position now, but him and to a lesser extent his teammate Flavor, they both are going to want a yellow flag to bunch up the top 5 back to them a bit.
I mean, looking at us right now, there's enough of a gap in front of Wild Nissan to. Never mind. It was my calculations were wrong. Sorry about that. But in a sense,
the best of us.
Well, I'm not the best of us. Just mentioning, and that's not me being humble. It's me being. Just
Jigsaw off circuit again. It's the same place that Jigsaw went off at earlier in the event. So now Jigsaw, who had just got back into the points, slides out of it again.
Really looks like the driver has a hard time figuring out the exit of 6.
And by drivers, I assume you just mean Jigsaw. Seems he's the only one who's really having most of those issues there.
I mean, really, so far, we've seen a lot of people just bending it on the exit of 6 as he almost lost it entering 13 Aquaman Rally. There's a lot of treacherous turns on this track, which is why I love it. It's for racing, it's probably not the best of track. As you mentioned, there's only really one relevant passing opportunity, which is turn 2, the enter of Variante Tamburello. But Imola really looks like at least a good, if not fun, track to do hot laps on.
Oh yeah, I'd agree with that.
And in a sense, as there's while Nissan's actually in the pits and going back on the medium compound.
He'll run that to the end of the race. Gusty also in pit lane. They've thrown mediums on his car as well.
As there's nobody on the grid right now.
Jigsaw off circuit again, out of turn 1. So everything's gone sideways for Jigsaw in the worst ways now. Stone Shuffle, despite lap 1 accident and then Spain later on his own, he's in 11th right now. So again, Stone Shuffle clawing points back in his favor. And Jigsaw's out. Crashed out finally there. Is that going to be a full course yellow?
I mean, I would assume the spot he crashed is pretty safe, but still, this is no excuse.
But we're going to stay green, I guess.
Yep.
Also of note, Chubby Spark has put his one of his points rival, XRL Gusty, a lap down at this point in the event as well.
Well, that's a hit in the morale for Gusty, I would assume. Because
the good issues for Gusty,
now,
though, is that Gusty has fresh tires that he can make to last to the end. Shelby has not yet made a stop today, so when Shelby does stop, more than likely Gusty will be able to get back on the lead lap, but still, it's pretty condemning for the Red Bull.
Well, looking at the intervals right now, the split times, it really feels like Chubby Spark can make his pit stop, as I believe V8 Irons and Veloce will make their stops at the same time. And looking at his split right now, I believe Chubby Spark could be regaining the track, probably 3rd, 4th, or 5th, as he would still be in the top 10.
You spend a lot more time on this pit lane than some of the others. I think if he pits, he would probably end up in 5th position.
Well, yeah, but...
And that's assuming he's the only one that pits. If other drivers all come in and pit with him, then obviously he'll maintain track position over them.
Well, in some way at least, as from 1st down to 5th, they're all on old medium tires. As all your top 3 has 18 laps on their tires, and 4th and 5th, X and Collie Boy have 16 laps on them.
Schumacher's just gotten by Flavor, and Flavor, I don't know if he pulled off circuit or slid off or what, but he has now dropped to 9th. But on pace, Flavor is maintaining a spot in the top 10. But again, Flavor's another one of those drivers, he has to pit sooner rather than later. Also near the front, Chubby Spark let Gusty go by in the DRS zone. And then that ended up backing Shelby up in the rest of the circuit. Then Shelby got back by the Red Bull down in Sector 3. And now the Red Bull has DRS again and is going to try and get back ahead. So I think Gusty is just doing everything he can to try and compromise Shelby's race. And he's trying to get Shelby to make a mistake. And this is allowed in this case. Normally, a lap car has to let a lead lap car by, but if the lap car is significantly faster, this is perfectly allowed. Gusty has found a loophole in the rules to abuse and try to sabotage his points rival.
Well, in a sense, I would say a car that is on the verge of being lapped can defend its position, but a car that has already been lapped is in no position to defend first position.
But Gusty was way but the thing is, because of how overpowered DRS is on the straights and the fact that Shelby has very worn tires while Gusty has fresh tires, Gusty is way faster in Sector 3 than Shelby is. So it doesn't matter unless you want Gusty to just lay over, Gusty has the preferred choice basically to pull past and get ahead of the Ferrari.
The thing is, it does look like a really nice time to go to pit lane for Chubby now, as it will put a little bit of distance between him and the Red Bull. I wouldn't be surprised if he dives down pit lane now. And yes, he does.
That's it. That's what he's doing. So does anyone else? V8 Irons in second is pitting as well.
8.
So this also locks Gusty back onto the lead lap for a while. Veloce had just pitted the lap before and put on sauce that will last to the end of the race.
X
Here
also
comes
in the pit
X
lane. Your
now.
top 3 is in the pit lane.
Does Boy come into the pits? That's the next question. Also, XRL Snake will be able to get by and get back on the lead lap.
No, Boy does not dive in the pit lane.
So Boy will overtake, I think, everybody except Chubby in that case. It's going to be close between Collie. Yeah. Irons takes... Yeah, Irons had the preferred line of choice, and I think, although Irons is on cold tires, I think those tires will heat up fast enough that he'll be able to hold Boy behind. But now Shelby Spark has a different driver ahead. Snake is still angry with the way that went down at China a few weeks ago. He's still gunning for Shelby's head, so Shelby now has another driver he has to be careful trying to navigate around on this track. Oh, Boy has spun out third position.
Oh,
that's going to drop him a long way down the order now.
This would be the time for him to pit. Worn out rubber.
X hits the spot, now gets by Plastic Glove. The fresh soft tires absolutely destroying everyone who had stopped on mediums or hards earlier in the event now.
As of right now, Chubby Spark is, I would say, safe, as he is still almost 3 seconds away from second spot. And new fastest lap by XRL Veloce, that is almost a second faster than the previous lap. We're in the 116s.
Boy finally pitting now. He's going to take those worn medium tires off. And now Stone Shuffle's in a position. I don't think podium is in the cards for him, but because of his strategy, he's still going to walk out here with a decent, respectable amount of points, simply because of how strats worked out.
So, looking at both standings, first, driver's standings. We only, out of the 3 contenders for the Drivers' Championship, Chubby is long gone, as he has the fastest lap, he is first. Stone Shuffle is only in 9th, so at the end of the day, there's a delta of 24 points going for Chubby, which I believe will make him reclaim the lead of the championship. And yes, he will. Yes, he will, by 19 points, if my calculations are correct.
I will say this, though. I think Stone Shuffle is still likely going to pick up a few more spots. Plastic Glove and Ocean Lion up ahead are on worse tires than Stone Shuffle, and they're really hammering the fights out between them. I think Stone Shuffle is going to walk by the 2 of them over these next few laps. I think Shuffle could probably come home in 7th position, honestly.
That would still let Chubby have an advantage of 15 points in the standings for him. And, well,
Schumacher
sadly,
and Davey Wart's pit.
Well, and sadly, Gusty is all the way back in 14 outside of the points. So this is not the end of the championship run for him, but it's gonna be way tougher than expected if he had been able to stay in the points for this race. Now, looking at the Constructors Championship, well,
one Ferrari is in the points paying position, one Aston Martin is in the points paying position, one Mercedes is in the points paying position,
and look at
the Ferrari has the advantage over them all.
Well, a couple of seconds ago, before Schumacher and Dave Ewart pitted, we had both Ferraris in the top 10. It really looks like if Schumacher can claw back...
Oh! Stone Shuffle's around! He's into the wall! And Stone Shuffle, for the 3rd time today, involved in an accident. For the 2nd time, it's an incident of his own. And that might drop your points leader out of the points-paying positions. The weight is ripped off the car. He will have no choice. He has to pit again.
This is for Stone Shuffle, this is the worst case scenario that could happen at the end of this race. For Chubby Spark, this is absolute heaven, as he is now clear of any competition. And looking as of right now, Schumacher will also go back in the points, give an extra point to the Ferrari camp in the Constructors Championship. This has gone from good to really the best case scenarios for the Ferrari camp.
Right now, I think what the Ferrari camp really wants is just see this race go green to the end, because as it stands right now, both Ferraris are in position to walk home with points, and Shelby just keeps slowly expanding the gap between himself and second. But if we get a restart, V8 Irons is very aggressive at the end of the race. I guarantee you Irons will try and throw it up alongside the Ferrari anywhere on track he can do so. Stone Shuffle, he has pitted, and he's thrown on fresh soft tires at least, but he has now been dropped all the way down to 14th place, more than 18 seconds off of Gusty. So 2 of your title contenders might walk out here with no points whatsoever.
Veloce, new fastest lap, that's 1:59. That is quality pace. And as we're looking at the split times, I believe he is catching back to V8 Irons.
The big thing, though, is that the gap, I think the big thing that's going to hurt Veloce, though, is that there's just 7.5 seconds between himself and Irons. We have about 8 laps to go here. I don't know if those tires will hold up long enough they can keep putting and closing that kind of gap to the end of this event. Also, Veloce has 6 seconds worth of time penalties, while Irons only has 3. Also, when I look at time penalties, Plastic Love, 17 seconds worth of time penalties. That's really going to wreak havoc at the end of the race, I imagine. And Flavor's finally pitted to put on new tires to the end of this event as well.
Looking at the fastest lap times of everybody else so far, XRL Veloce is the only one that can go below the 116, while Chubby and V8 haven't done a faster lap than a 117. So if Veloce can keep up his pace as long as he can, he could possibly claw back his split to V8, but
Boothie, accident, sector 2, virtual safety car.
And that is
disqualified from the accident for being pointed the wrong way for too long. And we are under the virtual safety car here in the closing laps of the event.
Well, that's only a VSC, so not a focal safety car. So Chubby Spark is, well, the situation is tense, is really tense as of right now.
But remember what happened at China. Chubby had a similar lead, and then the game penalized him for no reason under the VSC. All right, coming in the party right now is Boothie 116. Boothie, what happened out there? Boothie, can you hear us? Yeah, I hear you. What happened out there, Boothie?
I spun going up the hill, so I was facing kind of down the hill into the barrier. I had to kind of turn around that way, and it disqualified me for going the wrong way. Not great.
Rough to see that happen to you. What, out of curiosity, at the start of the race, what did you see on lap 1 going through turns 1 and 2 there?
Basically, everything just stopped in front of me. And then there was just multiple cars in the middle of the track. And then I ended up sideways across the track, so not much can do about it. So. Yeah.
You make a fair point. Shame to see it turn out for you like this, Boothie. Do you think you can turn things around next week at Portimao, though?
No, I'm not here. I'm on holiday.
Alright, fair enough. Well, we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you at the season finale at Jeddah then. Alright, well, that's the word from Boothie. Also, exits the spot, gets a drive-through penalty for speeding under that VSC, so that will drop him back to about 9th, maybe even 10th position. Gusty, who has spent almost all day out of the points, was a lap down at one section of the race.
And
now with 6
in.
laps to go, he's back in the points-paying positions.
Well, Ninth place, gives him 2 points.
It's not great, but it's better than where he's been most of the event.
This is way better than anything at this point. Only 2 points that would bring him to 200. Still, it would be still 6 points behind Stone Shuffle. But Chubby would be gone with, well, if my prediction is correct, Chubby would be at 236. So 30 points clear of Stone Shuffle. While Gusty would be at 200 points.
And this race has honestly gone about as good for Chubby as it can be. I don't see any way that he's going to get penalized post-race for anything that happened on the track, which has been one of his other big Achilles heel. Not been great at the initial start of a race, and has been penalized a lot post-race due to contact or incidents in the event. Chubby's basically kind of been on by himself most of the day. The only driver he's really raced with was Gusty earlier when Gusty was a lap down. And if anything is going to come out of that, it would be after Gusty and not Chubby. So maybe things worked out. Nissan coming into the pits. He wants to take off the medium tires and throw on some softs, go for fastest lap point, it seems.
He also did receive a penalty for speeding on the way. But yeah, speaking about Chubby Sparks, I mean, you cannot be in trouble with other people if there's no other people around you. I mean, you can't complain about having people around you if they're always ahead of you.
Also, another thing to take into consideration, the top three have 35 seconds over the fourth place driver. If Veloce so chose, he could jump in, throw on another set of tires, go out, and go for fastest lap. The gap is that big. At the same mark, Schumacher is running fifth with no time penalties right now, within a second and a half of Collie Boy has time penalties right now, so Schumacher might be able to pick fourth out of this as well. So great windfall day for the Scuderia Ferrari team in manufactured points as well.
So looking at the fastest lap, Schumacher 1:17.6, Collie Boy 1:18.3. I wouldn't be surprised if Schumacher can get this fourth spot by himself. Looking at all those penalties, can we see both Ferraris on the podium?
No, the gap between third and fourth is 36 seconds. That's not going to happen unless Irons or Veloce got disqualified, and I don't see that happening. Again, in the 50% races for XRL, once you exceed 21 seconds penalties, you basically are disqualified. The only guy I think who's in position to get that kind of disqualification is Constant Jet in 15th and Plastic Love in 11th.
Looking at the split now, looks like Schumacher will be in DRS range for Collie Boy, and Gusty will be in DRS range for Fratters, but what does it look like on the side of penalties? Looking at the penalties right now, I believe Gusty will end up 8th.
Here comes Schumacher on the run against Collie Boy. DRS is open. He's not really laying on the ERS. He just wants to try and get alongside of him. He's alongside in the braking zone. Around the outside, will he be given the room? Yes, he is. It's not the smoothest of overtakes, but there's no contact at least. And Ferraris are now first and fourth on the racetrack.
Really clean race.
Fratters exits the spot. Gusty all fighting like mad there for the 8th, 9th, and 10th positions. They've both gotten by Fratters. Now Gusty's trying to see if he can do anything to exit the spot. Gusty gets a time penalty, but he wants one more spot to try and help with his title hopes. He's got to run. Can't make it stick around the outside by the looks of it.
Switch back. He's looking for it. Switch back into his gearbox on the outside for the upcoming turn. Side by side, who gives in?
Welsh's just overtaken Irons. So something happened to Irons out there. And Plastic Loves had an incident farther back as well. Gusty right there behind next spot, despite the fact that Gusty is on way worse tires. Those two are absolutely pummeling it around the circuit right now. Gusty is positioning himself to have DRS down the straight. So Gusty might time this well enough to finish 8th here. Irons back in front of Veloce for the 2nd position as well. white flag is in the air. This is the last lap, I believe. No, we're on the second to last lap, aren't we?
And
Yeah, we're on the
Red Bull
second
makes
lap.
it stick
Never mind. We're
on the Williams.
So Gusty now by with 2 laps to go. Chubby crossing the line. Now the white flag is in the air. Irons has overtaken Veloce on circuit. So I think Veloce did catch Irons, or Irons made a mistake or something, but then afterwards Irons opened the gap back up against Veloce. The gap between first and second now 7 seconds. So unless Chubby has a last lap accident, which sadly has happened earlier this season, he's going to be able to cruise to this victory.
All he needs is a mistakeless lap, and I mean, really, he does have the time gap to almost take it really chill and really just securize his lap and, well, not say they should go slow and really make it, like, safe, but...
Yeah, you can go too slow, obviously, and then be stupid overdrive the car, but yeah.
Yeah, just knock the pace down a little bit and he will be safe. Exiting Variante Alta.
I want to give big credit, though, to Collie Boy. He is fighting back against Schumacher on this final circuit, by the looks of it. Also, Shelby Spark has put nearly everybody a lap down. As I look at the intervals to the leaders, the top 11 are the only guys on the lead lap. As Shelby crosses the line and takes home the victory, and V8 Irons will come out of the final corner to finish second. Third now will go to XRL Veloce.
There's your podium. Looks like Schumacher has put a little bit of a gap between him and Cali Boy.
Just enough to give
Cali
him
Boy spins behind him. This is done.
And Schumacher is low on fuel. Schumacher might not make it on fuel. Again, we've only had one full course safety car and one VAC, and Schumacher started the race under fuel. Collie has spun, but now does Schumacher have the fuel to make it to the start-finish line? And Collie Boy's spin has had a massive knock-on effect. That looks like it will promote Gusty up into about 8th position, maybe. And yes, Schumacher will have just enough fuel to come across the line in 4th. 5th then will go to Dave Ewart, and Collie Boy has spun again, and now he's spun out of the points-paying positions. Dave Ewart comes home 5th. Ocean Lion will come home in the 6th position. 7th looks like that will go to exit the spot. No, X actually overtakes Ocean at the end. Gusty comes home 8th. Fratters is shaping up to be the 9th driver across the line, but Plastic Glove and Collie Boy are both there ready to upset things. Fratters gets 9th, Plastic Glove 10th.
Oh, Collie
Boy spins again. But Flavor is so far back that it's not likely he's going to get overtaken again.
Flavor actually ended his race the lap prior. Yeah, Cali Boy was the last man to see the checkered flag. And that was a perfect race from Chubby Spark, completely dominating the field from the green to the checkers.
Well, we're going to definitely try and get our podium finishers in the party. A very interesting race, to say the least, from start to finish, as we now begin to look at the podium celebration. Coming into the party right now is your podium drivers. We want to start, though, with the pole sitter who walked off with this win. Shelby Spark, go ahead, include your audio. Fantastic run from start to finish. Yes, what the doctor ordered. What did you have to say about today?
Dev Race gave me a lot of clues onto what to do. I was contemplating to a hard strategy, a medium to hard, but I just forgot to pit. After like lap 16, my teammate said go to lap 20, then go on softs, because I did that yesterday in the dev race. But it was a great day. I felt like I had bundles of pace. I kept it stern, stable. The setup was amazing. I don't even know what to say. That was an amazing job by me and Schumacher. Schumacher had wing damage lap 1 and came back to 4th. Great job to him, too.
Yeah, I do want to say, you had a little fight midway through the race with the lapped car, or at the time, lapped car of XRL Gusty. What was that like from your perspective?
I didn't know what he was doing, to be honest with you. I didn't know if he was trying to get, like, to slow me down to back me up into irons or something. Didn't know if he was going to try to do something, but I think he was just he was just struggling on cold tires coming out of the pits. He let me pass. And then he got DRS again. I feel like he might have just been struggling on cold tires right out of the pits, because I saw him come out of the pits and he was struggling around the first sector. So I don't think it was anything deliberate.
All right, one last thing to say. You take home a very dominating win today. The man who led the points coming in today's event, Stone Shuffle, had 3 different accidents across the day, did not finish in the points. You're going to walk out here with the points lead without a doubt. Do you think you can lock up the title next week?
If the same thing happens this week, I think I could. But, depends. I mean, Portimao is a very, difficult track. There's multiple places where you can spin, get penalties, especially like turn 4, and then turn 7 or 8. Those are 2 very difficult corners where you can spin. It's gonna be whoever just has the raw pace on that track. Like, coming into this weekend, I was not confident. That dev race really helped me, though. I do feel like that. You know.
All right, well, congratulations, leading pretty much flag to flag. Now I want to talk to second place finisher, V8 Irons. Irons, outstanding run from start to finish. Sadly, it's only a second, so it's not going to help you guys a lot in the Manufacturers Championship, but what do you have to say about your race today?
I'm just happy I got on the podium, got some decent points. I weren't very going into the start really set me in good way. I went up to, I think it was laps, so I was pretty confident. I changed my start up a little bit as well. Seemed to work. Yeah, so I'm just happy. Just gotta keep it up.
All right, Irons, you, and at least according to the ticker, we didn't get to see it in the broadcast booth, but according to the ticker, you and Veloce had a little bit of a spat for second place. In the last few laps, what happened there?
I was purely just slowing down. I had Stone Shuffle ahead of me and he kept getting blue flags. I let him go. He was quicker than me, so I jeopardise him as well. He was able to point at the end there. I wasn't too sure, but I was just backing off a little bit. Wasn't risking nothing, and yeah, just seeing it nice and steady to the finishing line.
Well, nice and steady. Definitely brought home the great podium run for you. Very good run. Maybe with these last 2 races left, you can turn things around and still bring home Manufacturers Championship for the Aston Martin team.
Maybe. It's you never know, but you know, Ferrari's had two good results past 2 Grand Prix, so I think it's going to be a bit tough. But yeah, I'll certainly give it a go. And so will Boofy as well. It was unlucky today, but yeah, definitely out of it.
All right. Well, thanks for being willing to talk with us. One more driver I want to talk to. Third place finisher, XRL Veloce. Veloce, I think without a doubt you might have been the fastest driver from the start of the race to the end, but everything went sideways. Lap 1. Walk us through the first lap of your event at least.
Well, the start was it was an alright start. Stone Shuffle was on softs behind me. He also had a good start, so I had to go a little bit aggressive into turn 1, and then everyone went into an AI, and who was it? Hits the spot, lagged into me, and he ended up spinning because of it. Then the first lap was just trying to sit with. I was trying to push Chubby into making a mistake, maybe, but I was the one who made a mistake, funny enough. And then later on in the race, Fiend tried to overtake me. I went deep into the corner, and then I got understeer on the curb, and he went wide. But, I mean, he did end up spinning the chicane after. But I don't think I did anything in that second instant. And then from there, it was just about trying to recover because I had another spin. And then, yeah, the whole race I was pretty much gaining on the front two. So it was a little bit annoying that I had to spin. But, yeah, I did what I could and got faster laps. So that's something.
All right. Well, yeah, fastest lap as well. You were way far faster. Peasy even remarked in the closing laps that you were setting times that were comparable to what you did in Q3. It was that impressive what you were pulling off near the end there. Just kind of a shame that the gaps ended up being so large you couldn't really do anything with it.
Yeah, it's annoying, but hopefully if I'm racing next week, then I'll have a better shot. I don't like Portimao. that much, but yeah.
All right, well, thanks to all three of you for jumping in. One last thing just to say to all three of you, just to showcase how impressive your ability was. The distance between between the lead and fourth place by the end of the race was about 51 seconds, and the distance between third and fourth place was something like 42 seconds by race end as well. So you three put on a bloody clinic today.
Yeah, so I think it was us not fucking
Yeah,
killing each other.
also qualifying was like, I thought I did a good lap, and then I saw Chubby do his 14.7. I was like, he's quick around here. He was hiding for Q1 and Q2, and then he came out in Q3.
I knew I didn't have good pace in qualifying, but as soon as the race started, I felt really confident.
I mean, looking during the qualies, you three were the three fastest guys around, and for me personally, Veloce, you were my reference of speed for a one-man around this track. So, big props to you on that.
Yeah, to be fair, the Ferraris definitely did a lot of dragging and pulling each other in Q2 and Q3. So
I didn't get any slipstream off of him. He was making sure of that.
Oh, I sure. Oh, all right. I saw you set that final lap. I saw Schumacher run off circuit in the last two corners as if he was trying to get out of your way.
Oh no, he I think he muted me, and I think I was yelling so loud that heard it through the mute. So I don't know what happened there. I think he was just on the circuit for some reason. I'm like screaming, "Get off!"
All right. Well, once again, thanks to all three of you for being willing to jump in and talk with us. Fascinating race. And honestly, PZ, as we look back at the event, it was a relatively clean event as well. Yeah, we had that large lap one stack up, but after that, we did have other instances, but most of them were just kind of single car instances or spins. About 3/4 of the field still finishes the race. And honestly, it could have been more than that if the game wasn't stupid when it came to disqualifications and stuff.
I mean, from what I've seen so far, I believe this is the cleanest race I've seen thus far. There's only one full call safety car, one VSC during the end, but yet that was for a relatively isolated incident. So in the end, still an eventful race with plenty of fights on tracks, a lot of guys showing their raw speed. This is a win for everyone today.
Yep. Indeed. But with that in mind, there are only 2 races left in the XRL X3 season. But before we even get to that, in about an hour's time on the main channel, you can catch the third to last round, which is also at Imola, for the X2 title, as the 2 Aston Martin drivers continue to struggle it out for the title in that series. Until next week, though, I might be broadcasting later, no guarantee, but until next week, I've been your host for today's race, Insane Leader 13. I've been joined once more by PZ French Fry Man. We want to say thank you for being willing to jump in, and have a good night.